most of the people are here already, and if there are others who will join, then they'll just join in the middle, wait for Gal to finish the presentation so you get an overview of our programs and of what we're going to speak about today. Good, so if you're here for the Train to Hire program, this is the right place to be. So officially, hello and welcome to our webinar about Train to Hire Academies as a creative, out-of-the-box solution for hiring challenges hosted by Elevation. My name is Karin and I'm the General Manager of Elevation in Europe, and I will moderate our conversation with our three panelists who will share with us their secret sauce and do's and don'ts when considering initiating an internal Train to Hire Academy. Now, this webinar is part of our webinar series with topics around learning and development, around HR, and everything around in-demand skills, with the aim of sharing best practices and knowledge with you, with the community around us. Now, for those who don't know us yet, and thank you for the feedback of some of the participants in previous webinars who asked us, so what is it exactly you do at Elevation? So we at Elevation, we help solve the talent shortage by offering an academy as a service for companies to upskill and reskill current employees and to train to hire new ones, which is the use case that we will talk about today. Now, we work with a variety of companies and industries in Israel and also in Europe, from traditional companies to the most advanced tech companies. And we offer trainings in different verticals, so from R&D, coding, QA automation, full stack, data analysts, and everything actually around data, product management, business skills, and much more. So bottom line, to who didn't understand until now, anything you need in training your teams, reach out to us. Now, another good reason to reach out is in case you're hiring junior positions in Israel in full stack, in QA automation, or data analysts. We have super talented alumni of our academies to offer you, of course, free of charge. We are here to train them, and everything else is on you. And you're more than invited to join our community of companies we work closely with. We work with them to introduce our alumni after the training, but also during the training. So you actually have the chance to meet them not only when they're done and skilled, but also throughout the process. So if you're interested, our emails are here in the chat below. Also, if you want to learn about future webinars and everything we do, our LinkedIn, follow us, or our website, elevation.ac. And also topics of webinars, of events that we have. If something interests you, reach out to us, suggest ideas. We're always very, very happy to get those. Now, actually, also this webinar we have today came to life following requests of our customers who are facing growing hiring challenges and are looking into innovative ways to train and to recruit talents. So this is why we're actually here today, to share some knowledge and best practices with you from the ones who know it best, from companies who have done it and created and trained talents by training and also hiring them. But first, let's start with some statistics. I know that we all love numbers. It's definitely my favorite theme in university. I'm kidding, it's not, but I think numbers are important to really understand where we are and where the market is today. So just some numbers. According to Workable, the global average time for filling tech roles is 62 days. And even hiring senior engineers has an even higher average time to fill of 70.5 days. So a lot of time in order to find the right people and hire them. The average cost per hire above $4,000 per hire. Actually, other calculations speak about up to $7,000 per hire. There are 5 job openings for every 1 developer in the US alone. So meaning the demand is much higher than the amount of skilled potential employees. In Israel, where we know that we have many rapidly growing tech companies, there are currently 15,000 open positions in the tech industry alone. Let's talk about bad hiring. Bad hiring can be fatal for many reasons, but if we talk about the cost of it, 30% of the employee's first year earnings is what it costs if you hire the wrong person. The amount can be actually even higher in tech positions. According to Glassdoor, 61% of employees say that the realities of their new job differ from the expectations set during the interview process. I mean, I think we're very, very keen on hiring, but then actually sometimes the expectations are not really set in the right way, going back to wrong hiring. And one of the top 5 priorities of recruiters is improving the quality of hiring. And 87% of millennials rate professional career growth and development opportunities as important to them in a job, according to Gallup. So it's pretty clear that we're facing a challenging market that demands new solutions. We don't have enough skilled talents, the demand is high, the costs are high, the cost of making the wrong decisions are super high, and a lot of challenges we have. So our panelists will shortly tell us how their companies initiated and also executed a solution to create these talents they needed and also to recruit them with their internal train-to-hire academies. Now, before I will ask you, the three of you to introduce yourselves, I'd like to ask you, the participants, the attendees of the panel, to feel free to write your questions in the Q&A here below. You can either mention who the question is for, or to just, if it's general, just leave it open. And we'll use the last 10 minutes of the webinar to answer your questions. So please don't wait for the end. Feel free, if you have a question, just send it and we will have a look at it. And at the end of the webinar, we will dedicate the last minutes for that. So let's start with a short introduction of our panelists, who everybody's here to hear. I'd like to ask you to shortly introduce yourselves and the company you work for, so we all get to know you a bit better. Nir, I see you unmuted yourself, so let's go with you first.
Okay, I'll be the first. So first, thank you, Karin and Innovation, for hosting me here. My name is Goldstein. I'm the VP International Sales at Monday.com. For those of you who don't know Monday.com, our platform allows every team, every department, every company to manage any business process out there. We serve today more than 150,000 paying companies. We most recently got public on the NASDAQ, and we're growing very fast.
Thank you. Reut?
So hi, everybody. My name is Reut Rubinstein. I'm a VP of HR at Lusha. Before that, I worked for I was VP HR for another cybersecurity company called Rubinstein. Before that, I worked for Zerto. All of them are fast-growing companies. Lusha, specifically the product, is a B2B sales intelligence tool used by almost 1 million users. Lusha, the company, was founded 5 years ago. It's a PLG company which allows salespersons to reach their prospects with our data. The company is now 280 employees, both in Tel Aviv and in Boston. Most of our employees are in Tel Aviv, but we have also an office in Boston. And we have over 100 people in our R&D, what we call delivery, which is product and R&D together. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me as well.
Thank you, Reut. Tami.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm also happy to be here. I'm Tami Mazor. I'm a growth program manager at Papaya for over a year now. I made my own switch to high tech after 7 years as a senior communication strategy consultant. And about Papaya, so Papaya is a fintech company that creates underwriting solutions based on ML and AI. Papaya also possesses the largest research department in Israel with more than 160 employees, out of more than 750 employees between US and Israel globally.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, thanks for being here and being willing to share your experience with everyone here. So actually, let's walk through the milestones you went through when you planned and also when you executed your internal train-to-hire academies. And let's start from the very, very beginning. By the way, for the ones, because we're sharing the screen, if you see the panelists too small, just move this. For the ones who are familiar with Zoom, just move it a bit so you can see the screen and also the panelists who are speaking. I think it's a nicer experience. So again, let's start from the beginning. What was actually the challenge? What was the motivation when you started launching this initiative, the Train to Hire Academy? And just speak freely, like you can just jump in.
I can start. So just in general, I didn't share our headcount numbers, but Monday today is around a little bit more than 1,200 employees. We grow very fast. So in the past, a little bit more than 3.5 years, we grew from 200 to 1,200. A significant, scaling. And with the scale in the overall headcount of the company, me as in leading the international sales group, was also growing very fast. We grew from 15 to 170 within less than those 3 years. I found that we're struggling to keep up with the pace of our headcount plans. We consider ourselves as an Israeli company, so we try to keep most of the company here, including the sales group. So we're now one of the largest sales groups in tech in Israel at the moment. We have nearly 100 people here in Tel Aviv. And since the sales community here in Israel is at least the ones that sells SaaS products abroad, is not very big, we found that we're struggling to hire and are always behind our plans. And just to understand the financial impact or the meaning of being low on headcount on sales, every month that you are missing one salesperson is at least $50,000 loss for a company. And consider those numbers I've mentioned. If it multiplies over many months and with more than one salesperson, the financial impact is very, very significant. So we were struggling to hire aggressively in Israel, and we're also foreseeing the future. Numbers are only growing, so it's not going to get easier. Understanding that, we realize that we need to think out of the box and do something different, not just try to grab salespeople from one company to another. We wanted to make the cake bigger. And we decided that, and maybe just to complete the picture, on the other hand, we know that there are very talented people in Israel. Many of them want to make a transition to the tech scene, and potentially we think that the right person with the right talent can be trained to be a good salesperson within a short time. So that was our main challenge and motivation. The other one was we felt that our existing hiring process is not tuned to identify talent and to hire by talent, but mostly by experience. And that was another thing we wanted to gain through our academy, the Train to Hire Academy.
I love the last point of hiring by talent or skills, maybe, or yeah, talent is a good word, and not only by experience and CV. Thank you, Nir. Tami, what was your pain or the motivation to launch it?
All right, so as Nir said, Papaya also experiencing a really hyper growth. And when it comes to data scientists recruiting, we felt like two main pain points. The first one was the challenge to bring a large number of qualified data scientists, since data science is a relatively new field and there are hard competition for talent. And the second one was the challenge to onboard new employees at random times, one by one. We noted it demanded a lot from our managers, and that also had a negative impact on the team's productivity. These two challenges together led us to embrace a new recruiting strategy based on talented junior people. It was clear that training junior talent requires more time. So our motivation to build this training program was to enable this new strategy.
Great, interesting. Also, the onboarding part, right? That it's actually a strain to the company when you have different times of onboarding. So just putting all the efforts together. Nice, Tami. Thank you. Reut.
I think it's very much the same. My feel was we struggled with full stack engineers, developers, very much the same. Fast growing, understanding that the market is very challenging, super competitive in the Israeli tech market. It's almost insane. And instead of stealing from other companies, and as Nir put it, we need to change the market. We just need to look at new markets that we haven't looked at before. And we did it in several ideas. And one of them was looking at, as we mentioned, people who are, in our case, were graduate, but did not have any professional experience at all. And as Tami mentioned, to just not do it one by one and say, let's focus and have all the energy in one place and do it right and save time by doing it instead of doing it in the teams on the job training, what we usually used to do when we have somebody who is a mid or not or a less experienced developer. Another interesting thing is that it also solves kind of like the paradox of work experience paradox. If you don't have experience, people don't take you, so you can never get experience. And we kind of use that reference in the sense of we're trying to help solve that paradox. And I think that also maybe we'll talk a little bit later, but allowed us at least to diversify the people that we could get into those programs, because sometimes maybe we missed some talents. And I'll talk about it maybe later on, but we had 7 women, 8 men, some of them with very different backgrounds from what we usually recruit. So it was also like a nice bonus for the motivation for doing this. We put it, by the way, as a goal. And I think it was easier for us to achieve it.
Amazing. So thank you, Reut, and we're now. It was a nice, bringing us to the next point, which is also goal setting and the other steps. But before that, I just wanted to mention it's super interesting that I think the challenge is clear, the motivation is clear. You all had the same or similar challenges, but in different verticals. So you had the 3 of you had very different. You had sales, you had full stack, and you had data science. So very, very different use cases, but you all chose the same solution, meaning that these train to hire academies can actually be the right path for very different use cases, not only for, what we maybe know that is only, full stack bootcamps or something that we had maybe in our minds that would typically be the case. So definitely, as we see, it can be relevant for many use cases. Okay, so let's go to the next point. Let's go to the roadmap. Like, really walk us through the whole process. How did it start? How did you execute it? We'll talk about some pains later, but just walk us through this process.
You want me to start?
Why not? Tami, go ahead.
So I think I start with telling you a little bit about our programs. Till now, we launched 2 programs. The first is the Excellence Program for top exact science students that actually has completed last December. And the second one is the Switch Program for developers who are looking for a new career in data science. We started this very last Sunday, very exciting. So I think at high level, I can name 4 major blocks So the first one is the marketing. But before we think about how we approach our audience, we have to define our target audience, refine our value proposition, and after that, we need to actually manage the campaign, including PR, social media, and internal communication to bring more referrals. And the second block is the recruiting. Our KPIs were very ambitious, with minimum of 20 participants, with 30% being female and 70% conversion to a full-time job. Since we are talking about hundreds of applicants, we are talking about production line approach. I mean, CV screening, home test, analytical interviews, psychologist, decision committee, and finally the offers. After the participants signed, we invested in keeping them engaged with Papaya through WhatsApp, invitation to all company events, created a meetup so they will get the chance to know each other, and send them a welcome gift, all of this, of course, before the course even started. Our third block was the content. At first, we thought we could build syllabus internally with our data scientists. After a while, we realized it demanded much more resources than we thought and started to look for an external content partner. It was an intense process that demanded time and a lot of collaboration between us and the partner. The first step was to survey our data scientists to understand what could be potential topics to include as part of our syllabus. We analyzed together the survey to define which topics to talk about and who should be teaching them. And the fourth block is operation and facilitation of the whole thing. Begin with finding the actual space for the class. I believe some of you know that this is a real challenge in Tel Aviv. And handling the contracts, approving budget, buying equipment, and take care of all technical support, legal support, and much more. So I think this is the four main block when you go to the road.
Thank you, Tami. Maybe just one interesting thing that I remember from our conversation that you told me about about they were not hired, but they were, it was a pretty intense program, but they were compensated in a way for the time. Can you share something about that?
Our programs is fully compensated, but not commitment aligned. I mean, we don't commit them to hire them after the program ends, and they not committed to us to sign about our contract if we offer them. But I'll keep it to the end and tell you what was the result of the program.
But I think it's a really interesting model. So actually really paying someone in order to train them, and not like it was a 14 or 16 weeks intensive data science training, and with no strings attached. Like, you don't have to hire them and they are not committed to come to work with you. I think it's a very, very interesting model, and I can't wait for the end to hear how many actually were also hired and stayed at.
I think with your career are really huge risk in a way, but we were kind of sure it will be valuable for us later on.
Good. We'll hear about it in the end. So let's keep the interesting part to the end.
I can go next. So I think what we did is, first of all, we had the idea, and then we said, is it even possible? We don't know. We're at that point we're, I don't know, less than 100 people in the R&D. I don't have to describe it to you. Everybody, we always have delivery deadlines. We need to do so many other things, and then we have this on top of all the other stuff that we keep doing. We started at the discovery phase. We talked to companies who did that, and actually, I want to thank. We talked to Next Insurance, for example, for Efrat and Noah from Next Insurance, and they were so helpful and open and talked about all those things. And I'm always love to give them kudos for doing all those things and sharing, listening to webinars, podcasts, and we try to collect information. We had a lot of questions and a lot of decisions that we had to make along the way. So I think that's a really important stage for someone who never done it before, and kind of understand even what are the questions that we need to decide and answer later on. The other thing is understanding who's the owner. I think from very early on, we knew that the owner we decided that the owner should be someone from the team, R&D. I guess maybe Nir did it for the sales, but we felt it's not an HR project, it's a delivery project, and we are facilitating in everything that we can around it. But unless there's somebody who's owning it from the delivery, it will not succeed, and that's kind of what we did. Another important decision was that this is, and I guess Tami kind of mentioned it as well, this is not a screening program, this is a training program, meaning that all of the screening, and we had a lot of it, is done pre-training. And the people that we will start the course are the people that we are employees from the first day. They got options, they got whatever benefits, they got salaries, they got everything that all of our employees get. We did it in our offices, so it's, I guess it was easier. And part of it was, again, intentionally to make them feel as part of the team from day one. There was a lot of thought, and I think Neil mentioned it before, about the process of how we're doing the screening. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later about the people that we work with, the stakeholders, but and partners. But I think, as Tami mentioned, there's a lot of, you need to bring the CVs, you need to understand that we're publishing it, we get the CVs, and we do a right screening. It was the first time for us to screen so many people who don't have professional experience, and it's a new thing. How do we even know who's good, who's not? It's a new muscle for us to think about, to train, to learn how to do that, and it was a challenge, and we learned as we went.
You also went all in because you hired them from day one. So
yes, definitely. So we had to learn as we do it, and say in the end, those are for us 15 that we believe that are good enough for, and I think, I don't know if it's relevant, but in the end we got 600 resumes, and we invited 58 of them to a day of screening or interviews, and in the end we signed, we offered 15 people, and all the 15 signed. And as Tami mentioned, there's also some aspects of having different contracts and deciding on, like, preparing all the infrastructure from that perspective, the legal perspective, just to make sure that we're aligned. And again, as we treated them as employees, we did not think it's right to say you have to pay us something if you don't know. They're employees. Maybe we made a mistake, we'll be fine. That's kind of like the state of mind, how we want them to be there. We also thought it won't be good for them mentally if they feel that we're testing them. I'd rather have them invest the time and energy on learning and being the best version of themselves and getting as much as they can from what we're giving, than being, in attention mode. I respect if somebody else chooses to do it differently. I just said that's kind of like the state of mind and the choice that we decided to do when we decided to take this program. And as I mentioned, sorry?
How long was the program?
So what we did was 8 weeks, and we actually, something with the time was off, so they came a week before, so because of the trainer, so they came the week before, and they had like an orientation day, like any new employee, and they got all the equipment, and they got swags, and they got all the stuff, and try to make them again feel like at home. But the training per se was 8 weeks.
Fantastic.
At the end, we recruited, the course started 15 employees, as I mentioned before, 7 of which are women, 8 men, some with backgrounds of Orthodox Jews, for example, that we never had, mothers that are Orthodox Jews. So it was interesting, and as I mentioned, diversified our people, our employees in general.
Was diversity and inclusion actually one of the KPIs you set in advance, or did it?
It was. We did have a goal with the amount of women that we wanted to start this training.
Wonderful. So this is a part of the KPIs that you set. So not only the school, etc., but also the D&I.
Yeah.
Thank you. Neil.
Yeah, so I was a little bit different, but like the process was very similar. It started from the ideation as well, getting the idea out there, meeting quite a few skeptic people around the organization. Can it happen? But I think as I shared it immediately when I shared it with our CEOs, Eran and Reut, they were very thrilled about it, and they actually said, no matter how many people you want to hire, let's triple the amount of students. We want to have a social impact here, and this is part of what we've done. We've deliberately trained many more people than we needed to hire, and we're actually even launching now academies, even when we don't have when we don't need to hire at all. But this was the ideation phase. Once we were able to convince people that it can be done, we went into the planning phase, which was very important for us, because it was around, first of all, identifying the profiles, what we want to achieve, and who is the right student, who is the right person. Is it someone who was working or not necessarily? Do we need to create a training course for someone who can do it on top of his day job or not? Are these people need to have a degree or not? Do we need to pay them? Do they need to pay us? Do we want them to come because we're paying? Are we obliged by law to pay them? There were like many things that we needed to plan out, and also who is the perfect candidate that ideally we would like to hire later on. And when I'm saying perfect candidate, it's in terms of skill set, and most importantly, how do we measure those skill sets? Because screening process is very important. Then I think we scheduled a spot on TV and on the news to get a PR and everything, and we launched a quick video on the social media, and within 2 days we got 1,800 applications on 40 spots. So we canceled everything, and we had a rough screening process, rough for us, a very effort and intense screening process. Later on, we had a few additional stages. Alongside the screening and recruiting students for the plan, we started planning out how do we want to build a course. For us, one of the main objectives was to get to know the students very well, because taking you back to our challenges, we felt that when we decide to hire juniors, as most of our sales hiring process is around experience and existing knowledge, we wanted that the academy would allow us to get to know people better, to see their skills, to see their learning curve, to see who puts in effort, who learns quick, and this was a big part of how we constructed the course. Later on, after a few weeks of planning, we've executed it all in our offices. And then we went for another time-consuming and intense process of hiring those people who we have decided to hire. And I'm aligning with Reut here. We also had a target of diversity. We got into the course people from different societies, from different geographies, different ages. We had more than half of the course women, so all of that was another goal for us, and I believe that we'll continue to do so in the upcoming academies.
Wonderful. Thank you. And you started mentioning some things. Maybe we'll talk about it when we talk about some tips and tricks. But both Reut and you spoke about hiring or finding the people not according to their experience, but rather their abilities. So it would be interesting to hear a little bit how do you actually do it. But we have until then. Let's talk about something else first. You all mentioned, when you outlined the process and outlined the roadmap, you mentioned legal and facilities and recruiters and HR and many different partners and stakeholders and content, etc. Along the way. Can you please mention who were these critical stakeholders? So you don't have to mention all of them, but especially the ones that were really the most crucial and critical partners and stakeholders that led to the success of this program.
Okay, so I think this kind of mega project cannot succeed without cooperation, collaboration with almost all the company's departments, starting naturally with HR, and in our case with the research department, but also with legal, finance, IT, and operations. Moreover, the most strategic partner we aligned with is master school, which supplied us a school as a service platform, including tailor-made content and pedagogical instruction. So this is our main partners.
And internally, like, was there someone where you would say, okay, like internally, definitely, if you start this program, definitely have this function internally on board to be sure it's gonna work. It's gonna work the way we want it to.
So as I said, you have the collaboration with the HR, from begin with the talent team and ends with the employee experience team. And I don't want to repeat myself, but of course,
so basically aligning everyone together. Okay, thank you.
I can go next. So one of the things that helped me push it forward at the beginning, when there were like skeptical people or functions in the organization, was we're in the cells in Monday, we're kind of self-sufficient. So I just like announced the organization that we're running with it. We have a fairly large team of trainers, more than 10 people only in the sales enablement and training. So I knew that we have people that would be able to create the materials and then, to train the students. We have dedicated recruiters. So the call was all allocated. I think that one of the things that differentiate sometimes sales from other departments is that we have some of those resources. And that was a good thing because that allowed us to get the wheels running until we got the entire buy-in of the company, which, by the way, after 1 or 2 weeks, it like the entire company was behind us. And then we started to realize that we need marketing materials to be able to recruit students. So we have a video production team here in Monday. They help us with it, and the marketing team helped us spread the word. We understood that we need to check legally and prepare some kind of terms document to make sure that we're not missing out anything on the legal aspect, and the operations to make sure that we have food and we have antigen test, because it went through at the late last year. So these are the main functions that we worked with that really helped us get everything ticks. But I think our main inherent advantage was internally within the sales group, we started off with substantial amount of resources.
Perfect. Thank you. Reut, how was it at Lusha?
I think it's kind of similar. I think the most important two teams were obviously the R&D and HR, working specifically, as Tami mentioned, it's recruiting, it's the employee experience, HR operations for all the legal things. And I think Nir mentions another important thing. It's important to get the stakeholders in line to make sure the CEO is in favor of it. It was important to get all the organization excited about it. And we also collaborated with marketing that did for us a lot of the material for publishing and allow us to get all those CVs that we wanted to get out there to have a campaign. Or so yeah, it's kind of, I guess, very similar.
Great. And I think what most of you or all of you actually also mentioned, that the business unit was actually the one leading it. So in your case it was R&D, in your case it was sales or data, like really having not only HR, L&D, etc., but really the unit leading it forward. Okay, so we all like tips and tricks. And what would you say were like the 3 most important success factors of your academies? Tami.
I think the number 1 rule is to keep on balance. It's about everything. It's about between theory and practice, belonging and engagement when there's no commitment, in our case, feedback and push for improvement while evaluation is on the go. The will to supply with optimal learning environment given the number of resources needed, and the ability to retain the program profitability. My second tip is to keep organizational contribution and involvement by mentors, by help desk, assignments creators, final projects, presentations audience, and much more. And my third trick is to assign so-called mom and dad to the course that will act as direct managers and as a go-to person for the participants. That way the participants know there is always someone who cares about them. It creates a psychological attachment which increases the engagement with the company as far as we experienced it.
Thank you.
I could go next, thank you. So one of my points is very similar, but in a little bit of a different twist, because we had an owner from the R&D and we had the HR VP who was, I would say, the mother, maybe, I don't know, that both of them were very connected to the team. First of all, it's a project and you need to treat it like one. It's something different that the organization, it's really something that we need to allocate resources in order to do. So you need to treat it like a project. You need to have a timeline. You need to understand how, when, what is needed to get everybody's not only collaboration, but everybody knows what expected of that, and to make sure it keeps on moving and meets your goals. And sometimes it's not on the way. Let's do it. No, it's a project. You need to treat it like one. The other thing is not to be afraid to do it. I think in a way, just, we did it. I think all of us did it here. It's not an easy task, but it's doable. And if it's something that you think will be helpful and will help you solve, just don't be afraid and just don't think of all the things that you can do. Think about the things that you can do. And I'm sure in the takeaways that we'll share with you, not all the programs went perfect, and there's a lot of things to improve. But it's the best way to learn, and I'm sure we all learned from the project we did. And the third tip is focus on what you do best. And I think we kind of mentioned it before. And I think Nir's situation is great. They have trainers. We understood that we don't have. I see training as a profession, right? You need to know how to give people the knowledge, and you have to. They have to not only learn it, but do it with their hands, and it's a profession to give people that knowledge and teach them and train them. And we understood that we don't have those resources. Obviously, as I mentioned, we're a smaller company than Monday, for example, and we don't have those people who can do that. So we said those are the things that we want to take from outside. And one of the things that we are super good at is the way that we care about them, is the recruiting part. Is we did a lot of things that we knew we had the resources in-house, the things that we said, we're just not going to be the best at it, and it's important to be very good at it. We hired or used other resources from outside, and I think it was a very important takeaway. That's my tricks and tips.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree more about training being a profession, but I might be biased about that, but definitely agree with you on that. Neil, your tip.
I'm actually sharing two with the Reut. My first one would be planning. Define your targets. Is it for hiring? Is it for onboarding? Who do you want to hire? How many? Do you want to put emphasis on diversity? Because every one of those targets would have meaning on how you're going to execute, who you're going to bring, and everything, and that's important. And then the entire planning stage of how do you find the people, the most suitable people that you're looking for? How do you test them? How do you screen them? How do you execute? For us, for example, getting to know the students was a key factor. So we made sure that the training is not only being done by trainers. We had the entire sales management and all the senior salespeople, taking intensive part in the academy, running simulations in small groups with people, because we want to end the academy when we feel we know each and every student, and we made sure that there's a mix. So this is planning is key. And then I fully agree with Reut about really believe in it and give it a go. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just do it, just like the slogan says, get with it. And the other one is, I also fully agree on focus on what you do best and outsource the rest. I'll explain exactly what I want to focus on and what we decided that is not our best, just in the next part of our mistakes that we learn from. So I'll keep you guys a little bit.
So let's jump to the mistakes and take us there. You already touched it, so go ahead.
Okay.
What are the mistakes we can learn from? I'm sure people are taking notes because this is what everybody wants to hear.
So I think the most time-consuming and effort-consuming piece of the academy for us, we had two. We had the creation of the materials, but it was fine because A, we had the resources, and B, we knew us specifically. We had the resources. Other departments, by the way, in Monday that are launching academies don't necessarily have training in-house trainers. But we knew that we can also reuse it. So it was a one-time effort for us. However, the screening process was tough. It was very time-consuming. This was something that definitely we learned for the future academies, that we want to get an external resource that would help us with performing at least some parts of the screening process and accelerate it. So this was our number one mistake, and this is our lesson, moving forward. That's it.
Great, thank you. Tami, what were the lessons learned or the mistakes that you made and others can learn from?
So I think all of us already mentioned it, but you most likely cannot do it on your own, not fully on your own. So I really recommend to collaborate with professional vendors. I think my second tip, actually the 5, because I mentioned 3 before, but anyway, I want to say stay in touch between signature and day one. Candidates can drop off, and you want to make sure you are creating community from day one, that they feel they are part of something and they are also being engaged to your company. So this is a thing that we learn on the go. And the third thing that I already mentioned is the legal and IT support. I cannot emphasize enough how much it's important. I mean, we haven't thought about it entirely before we went with before we launched the program, and this is one of what we learned, that we need to invest in this area.
Thank you. Reut, lessons learned from Lusha's Academy?
So we have a lot, and we actually have like a document where we did the lesson learned in writing. I can share 2 things that I think will be a little bit different. So one thing is the fact that we rushed into, and we really tried to do really quickly from the moment we decided we want to do it, and the moment we said, this is it, this is the day where they start, and we had very little time. So everything was really, really rushed and stressed, and I think it's and we were very worried about it and stressing over it. And in the end, we were afraid we won't get enough CVs because of the timing, because the specific timing where for us, because it was graduates, when they graduate, when they look for work, it's like birds that are migrating. Like you have specific seasons for those things, and we missed the season. And we said, I don't know how we'll do it, and we're super stressed. But in the end, as I mentioned before, everything was fine, and we shouldn't have stressed over it. The second thing, which is I would say the biggest, I wouldn't say mistake, but the biggest thing that we learned, we underestimated the time and effort that will take us after the initial training to onboard the employees. And what happened was that we needed about 6 or 7 graduates. We have room in the teams, and we ended up really exhausting the existing team because each of them got 1 or 2 people who are under the after this training, but not, still need a lot of training on the job, and it took a toll on the teams. And then not only do we, they're lacking of senior developers, we're now, and there's always stress and things that we want to deliver faster. They now had more work. So when we retrospective what we did, we said, next time we should not have taken and said, double the amount. Let's do 15. It costs us the same as doing 6. No, maybe we should, try with the 6 or 7 and then see if everything goes, because I think it really actually held us back in a way. And I think that's something that I didn't anticipate at first. Or if you're out there and you're listening, maybe I will save you.
Very, very good points. I'm sure all of your points were super valid, and I think it definitely will save some of us here that are listening and are planning. But let's now go to the bottom line. Was it successful? Did you meet your goals? Will you have future trainings or train to hire academies in your company? And I see Neil was very fast in unmuting himself. So I guess you want to share with us the success story.
It was a complete failure. It didn't work, and no, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, we had it was a huge success. Specifically on the sales, we had 36 students, 36 graduates, and at the end we had some kind of a draft process. We had 15 open positions that were suitable for juniors, and 26 out of the 36 graduates got a green light for hire. And we chose and hired out of them 17 people. So we had 15 open positions. We decided to pull 2 positions from the UK back into Israel in order not to miss out talent. And I think most of the other graduates, we helped them find jobs in other companies. So specifically for the sales academy, for the sales training, it was a huge success, but it actually went much bigger. It opened the eyes for the entire company, and we've decided to launch a few dozens of academies this year. So as we speak, we have an academy for customer success, academy for biz dev / partners, academy for recruiters. Yesterday, we have announced academy for full stack developers and academy for product growth and data analysts. And this is only the beginning. So we're planning to launch a few dozens of academies within Monday this year. Not all of them necessarily to hire internally. Obviously, this would be a big gain, but we hope that we can maybe be the front runners or one of the front runners in making a change in the Israeli tech and help the Israeli economy and everything to solve a big challenge that is currently running.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's and congratulations for this success in such a short time, such a huge success. It's really very, very inspiring. I'd love to hear from also Tami and Reut. I'm just going to say we have the last 5 minutes now of the webinar, and we also have to share with you the checklist and also something else we would love for everybody to prepare your screenshot. But of course, we want to hear from Tami and from Reut. What can you share with us? Was it a success?
I'll be quick. So yes, it was a huge success. We actually met all our goals and KPIs. We opened the first cohort with 30 participants, top execs and graduates. We had 30% of female, and we ended up with 100% conversion to full-time data scientists in Papaya. And our second cohort started last Sunday with 12 new participants. As I said, experienced developers who want to make the switch to data science. So I humbly think this program is a great success, and we can't wait to onboard our next classes.
Congratulations, amazing. Reut, you already mentioned a bit before, but
yes, I would say that there's two things. I think there's one of the satisfaction of the participant, and we know they're super satisfied. I would say for the full stack, for us, the real KPI is what's going to happen in the long run, because we just finished the course 3 months ago, and they're still in the ramping phase. So I can say it was a huge success, because the way I want to, the success that we mentioned is the success of how many of them will be great developers, and it's a long-term question. So I can answer partly for this question.
I love that. I love that, and we'll definitely invite you to the next webinar in a few months to hear how it went in retrospective. Wow, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And we actually also collected all of what you said and created what we call like a checklist to summarize maybe the most critical steps you should think of when planning such an academy. I'll just walk you through it super fast. So we're talking about the challenge, define the current challenge and the motivation. Like, this is definitely step one. Take the time to really define it. Then think backwards, like what should be the result and what does it mean? Like, what is the goal? How many do we want to hire? What does it mean? How many do we need to train? And we heard something interesting today. So maybe not just double or triple the number, maybe think about also the consequences that can happen. KPIs, how do you define the success of the academy? What are the key metrics? How do you define the success? Super important to take the time to define that before you start. And the roadmap, this is where we saw it becomes extremely operational, and definitely don't underestimate this phase. Like, plan in advance. Don't underestimate the importance of every little step. What are the skills you need? How to measure it? Who are the stakeholders? What is the process, etc., etc. A lot of legal, logistics, recruitment, onboarding, like many things that you need to take into consideration. Resources, definitely verify you have enough internal resources for the entire process from A to Z. If it's the case, amazing. If not, focus on your core business and see what you want or need maybe to outsource or to add an external service provider. And now is the time for the screenshot that I mentioned before. Take a screenshot of this. This is something that we actually created at Elevation a questionnaire basically, that when we speak with our customers and think with them, and we just help them think about what do you need to think of when you start this process of planning such an academy. Who are the why and the what and the when. So take a screenshot of that. Maybe it will be like a cheat sheet that you can use to straighten your thoughts. Happy to discuss it if you are if you're interested. No strings attached, just to help you go through. We're very happy to help you with that. So if you want, feel free to reach out to us. And I promised to finish on time, and we are very much on time. We did not have time for your questions, which we promised. We actually went so much into conversation, but I did promise time for questions. We won't have it during the webinar, but if you have questions to the panelists, and I'm asking the panelists also if you would be okay with it to answer it maybe after that. We will forward it by email, and we will answer it, or maybe in a future blog post of us, so everybody can also enjoy it. So I'd like to thank you, our panelists, Nir and Tami and Reut, for sharing your experience and your best practices. Thank you for participating. And thank you also for the audience for being here and for being so interested and involved. Our next event will take place in mid-April. This time it will be a masterclass about data-driven decision-making. We'll share more about that shortly, so feel free to subscribe to our mailing list on their website, on LinkedIn, as I said before. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon and day, and good luck with your future trainings, onboardings, and everything around that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.